As I gently brushed the gravel off the baby's head and calmly noted that the little dents it had left in her scalp would surely pop back out eventually, I took a moment and thought to myself, where the hell do I get Pringles in Egypt? Now, as much as that sounds like a wine-soaked Mad Lib, it is actually a wee glimpse of the strange and sometimes terrible mother I become when I'm forced to fly on an airplane with my children. She is my dark alter ego, the Hyde to my Jekyll, the Gollum to my Schmeagol. A few years ago, my family got the very cool opportunity to spend a few years living and working in a foreign country. A small country whose charm stems, at least in part, from the fact that very few people know about it and hardly anyone ever goes there, including, we soon learned, most major airlines. Because just getting there from, say, Spokane, Washington, involves at least 4 flights, one ridiculously long layover, around 30 hours of travel time, and if you're smart, a large bottle of the prescription mood-altering drug of your choice. And that's really just for the regular folks traveling alone. I have decided that mothers of small children who have to spend that much time on an airplane should really be assigned a complimentary therapist upon check-in. Someone who can sit next to them and whisper calming thoughts like, "You look super thin in those yoga pants." Or gently stroke their hair when things get dicey. And trust me here, things are pretty much guaranteed to get dicey. Consider, for example, the time I was on a relatively short 2-hour flight with my then 8-month-old daughter. She was my second child, so I knew what I was doing. I had a bottle ready for takeoff, another small one ready for landing, and a beautiful cooing baby in my lap. 4 hours later, after being diverted for weather twice, I was holding Satan. All the bottles were empty. She had drop-kicked all 6 of the binkies that I had so carefully packed, and I had only managed to make complex origami out of the blanket in which I was desperately trying to swaddle her, which was pretty cool, but not at all helpful. So, even though I am quite modest and was never terribly comfortable with public nursing, out of desperation, I whipped out a boob. The only problem was that this baby had been fully weaned for at least a month. And the sad, shriveled up breast being shoved in her face was just an insult to both of us. I'm still not sure how the 14-year-old boy seated next to me felt about the whole scene. If I had to guess, I'd say I probably brought puberty to a screeching halt and possibly even threw it into reverse. But at the time, I had exactly 0 F's to give about that kid. My airplane mom alter ego figured that if his parents could afford an airline ticket, they could surely afford counseling, so screw all of them. Now, the question some of you might be asking yourselves at this point is, why didn't her husband help her out? The short answer is that his own work and travel schedule meant that I did much of this traveling with my children alone. But even when he was able to join us, my husband had developed a magical gift for seating himself right next to the one offspring who was in the mood to quietly read a book and/or fall asleep before the landing gear was even up. Once or twice per flight, my husband would pause the movie he was watching, take off his headphones, set down his little plastic cup of red wine, and glance over to see how the rest of us were faring. But by then, I was usually already throat punching him in my head, while simultaneously in the throes of a very real mixed martial arts battle with whatever toddler was on my lap. So my husband wisely learned to just fake sleep and take his lumps after we had landed, where there were larger bathrooms and duty-free shops into which he could run and hide if I looked like I was still feeling kind of stabby. Now, you should know that in my regular life, when I'm not locked in a tiny metal tube hurtling through the air with 4 small children, I am a lovely person and not at all prone to assaultive behavior. I am honest, I'm a careful rule follower, I'm polite to a fault, and pathetically non-confrontational, which is kind of funny since I'm a trial attorney. But put me on an airplane with those kids and I become someone I don't recognize. I become someone who has lied to flight attendants about whether my car seat is airline approved. Someone who has shamelessly hoarded those tiny pillows and creepy little airline blankets, because if it takes building a squashy nest to get a kid to fall asleep, so be it. Sucks to be you, old people. Next time, pack a sweater. I have very intentionally pulled the hair of the woman in front of me while pretending I was just using her seat back to stand up, all because she had fully reclined her seat before it was Mommy's turn to go pee. And I have even accidentally committed a minor sexual assault while retrieving my glasses from the crotch of the stranger dozing next to me after my 1-year-old slapped them off my face and right into his lap. And yes, I have laid a tiny 5-month-old baby right on the hot, gravelly tarmac in Egypt because I needed 2 hands to unfold my stroller. My 4-year-old was threatening to board a shuttle bus without me, and the exhausted, weeping puddle of a 2-year-old next to me really, really, really wanted some Pringles. So while I'm not necessarily proud of the person I become when I fly with my children, I am likewise not ashamed of her. Because as any mom who has flown with small children knows, we're in survival mode. And it's only fair that we get a pass on perfect mothering and good behavior. Right up until that final glorious moment when the wheels touch down, the captain hits the brakes, and the small child who has finally fallen peacefully asleep next to you rolls off the seat and smacks his head on your carry-on because you lied to the flight attendant about whether his seatbelt was fastened under all those blankets.